G'day ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and everyone in between. It's Matthew here from howtoplaythesax.com, where we are all about having fun, playing saxophone, being awesome and repeating the whole process. What I wanted to do in this little video is answer some questions. I've had an email from Scott. Scott has sent me an email with a few questions. Scott from the Netherlands is a member at howtoplaythesax.com. His questions are relevant and I thought I'd share these questions because they're relevant for everybody. So Scott, thank you so much. Welcome to howtoplaythesax.com. Thank you for your email. Scott has said quite a few things. He's written quite a nice email, and he's being sneaky with his saxophone. Scott is being sneaky, and I love sneaky saxophones. Scott's getting married fairly soon, and he's keeping his saxophone a secret, and he's going to bust out his sax on his wedding day, and the crowd's going to go wild. He's going to jam with the band. Awesome, Scott. Fantastic. When I read that, I thought, oh, that's really cool. Just recently, about a month ago, a one-on-one student of mine here in Melbourne, she did the same thing. She's been learning the saxophone the last 6 months or so, and she wanted to play this particular song at her wedding. And so on the wedding day, there she was. She's all in her white dress, and there's lots of people everywhere, and I was lucky enough to go as well. And it was really cool. She busted out her sax and she played her song to her new husband, and everyone went, woo, it was a beautiful thing. So Scott, please, well done. Great idea. Sneaky saxophone. Scott has written that he really wants to play Pharrell Williams' Happy. Great song, really love that song. Wants to play that at his wedding. He's never played an instrument before and thought it'd be fairly cool. Because he's a teacher, he gets to hang around at school a little bit after school and practice his saxophone there. Excellent, this is good. Scott's been looking at some of my videos and blah, 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 and he doesn't even mind my dad jokes. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. That's very nice. You should tell my teenage daughters that, but thank you. So what he's talking about is he's saying on some days his playing goes well, on other days it feels like it's the first time he's ever picked up his saxophone. What's worse is that after a couple of practices of his sax, he feels he can't make any much more further progress, and his mouth seems to tire and it goes into weird spasms. So he's looking for some tips. How can he make his saxophone playing a little bit easier? Okay, Scott, a couple of questions for you and maybe some ideas. First question, on your saxophone, Scott, what kind of mouthpiece do you have? The reason I ask that question is because mouthpieces that come with some saxophones, some of them are really, really bad. That's not your fault. That's not anybody's fault. That's just the way it is. The saxophone companies, they make a nice saxophone and then they skimp out on their mouthpiece. So what kind of mouthpiece do you have, Scott? May I make a suggestion? If you are a brand new beginner to the saxophone, please can you get yourself a Yamaha 4C. Yamaha 4C. I'll put a link below. Yamaha 4C. The Yamaha 4C mouthpieces are, in my opinion, the best mouthpieces for brand new beginners. They're really good for seasoned players as well, but for a brand new beginner, Yamaha 4C. Get a Yamaha 4C mouthpiece. That might make it a little bit easier. Maybe you've got one already. I'm not sure what mouthpiece you've got. Second question, what kind of reeds do you have? The reason I ask is because a Rico, R-I-C-O, Rico size 1.5. If you are a brand new beginner to the saxophone, Rico or a Royal, Rico and Royal reeds. They're made by Dario. They make guitar strings as well. Again, I'll put a link to my resources page. I've written about the Rico reeds. I've written about the Yamaha 4C mouthpiece. I'll put a link below to my resources page, which has some ideas and suggestions. But Rico or Rico Royal size 1.5. Maybe a 2 at a stretch if you can't get the 1.5s. Basically with reeds, the smaller the number, the easier it is to play, the softer it is. The higher the number with a reed, with a 4 or a 5, it's like a plank. It's putting a big plank in your mouth. A 1.5 for a brand new beginner. Scott, get yourself a Rico or a Rico Royal size 1.5 reed. Cool, there's that one. Third thing, with your mouthpiece and with your saxophone, may I make a suggestion? May I suggest that you experiment with how much you put in to your mouth. If you put in only a little bit of the mouthpiece into your mouth, then the reed doesn't vibrate. The reed doesn't vibrate, and it's really hard to make a sound, and the sound can just stop. If you put too much of the mouthpiece in your mouthpiece, then your saxophone can sound a little bit like a sick duck. Your saxophone will be difficult to control. So there's a little bit of experimentation. Do you put the reed and the mouthpiece in a long way, or not too far, or not far enough? Experiment a little bit. You know, we're only talking millimeters here. We're only talking a tiny little bit. Tiny little bit. Put it in a little bit further, bit more, bit less. Have a blow for a moment or two. See which feels the best. Experiment with how much of the mouthpiece is in or out of your mouth. In a perfect world, you know, with my mouthpiece here, I've got this white thing on. My teeth, you won't be able to see it on the camera, but my teeth marks are probably about a third of the way down. You know, they're sort of round about here, about a third of the way down where my top teeth go. Experiment with your mouthpiece. Your mouth, your mouthpiece are a different shape. Your throat is a different shape than mine. Experiment a little bit. The final thing, may I suggest, with, just dealing with that, with your reed, when you put your reed on, again, it's going to be difficult to see on the camera, but you might be able to see that there is just a tiny little bit of the tip of the mouthpiece showing with the reed at the top. So you don't want to have, for example, give me a sec, you don't want a big gap. See how I've lowered the reed there? You don't want a massive gap between the tip of the reed and the tip of the mouthpiece. Same again, you don't want to have the reed higher than the mouthpiece. It's a bit tricky to see. You don't want to have the reed higher than the mouthpiece. You want to have just a tiny hair's breadth, the width of a hair, of the reed showing above the top of the mouthpiece. Let me just put it back to where it should be. There we go. So a tiny, you can just see the tip of the reed and the tip of the mouthpiece. They're almost exactly the same height, but the reed is slightly lower. So you just want to be able to see just a tiny little bit of the tip of the mouthpiece at the top. So the combination of all those, combination of a good mouthpiece, the Yamaha 4C, it'll set you back 50 bucks, give or take. You're from the Netherlands, I understand, so we're talking euros. So again, please, my quick conversion from Australian dollars to US dollars to euros, please, this is off the top of my head, 30 euros, give or take. I could be very wrong there and I apologize, but they're not overly expensive, the Yamaha 4Cs. Rico or Rico Royal reeds. Experiment with how much and how little of the mouthpiece that you put in your mouth. Experiment a little. Find the good spot, the sweet spot for you. If it's not working, pull it out a little bit. If that doesn't work, put it in a bit more. And final thing, make sure that the tip of the mouthpiece is visible above the tip of the reed. Hopefully that helps, Scott. Hopefully that works. Please keep being sneaky. Please keep playing your saxophone. Please ask any other questions if you've got them. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Matthew from howtoplaythesax.com, where we are all about having fun playing saxophone, being awesome and repeating the whole process. Scott, keep playing your saxophone. I'm really looking forward to finding out when your wedding is and how the ultimate gig goes. I presume it's a little way off yet. Keep playing, keep being sneaky, and keep having fun. Thank you. I'll see you in another Q&A session at another time. Thank you very much. My name is Matthew from howtoplaythesax.com once again. Thanks heaps.